On the eve of the return of Golden State Warriors basketball, we have a loaded show for you on Warriors Today by Chat Sports. As the Warriors almost did what over the summer? A massive story came out on what the Warriors' plans were over the offseason. We're going to talk about that on today's show. Also, an inevitable trade rumor after Warriors made a big-time decision on the future of their roster just this week. And then we'll close out today's show with Steve Kerr trimming the roster down as we are just 24 hours away from Golden State Warriors basketball getting back on the hardwood, and we'll be live for the game, the season opener against the Portland Trailblazers. Not the most exciting game to start the Warriors' new season, to see all these new faces, but doesn't matter. We'll be live right here on the channel with a live watch-along, live scoreboard, have a couple drinks on hand. We're going to have a good time to kick off the Warriors season. So join us, subscribe to the channel, and we'll get the Warriors kicked off with a W to start the 2024-25 campaign. What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports, and on today's show, the Warriors apparently tried to not only bring in Paul George this offseason, as we knew toward the beginning of free agency that they were deciding whether or not Paul George would opt in or opt out of his contract to facilitate a trade to the Golden State Warriors. And then once those plans dissolved, the Warriors shifted their focus to Lauri Markkanen. But it seemed like there was never a single package deal here. It always seemed to the Warriors like this was a two-addition summer. And they didn't make either one, so this is where we stand now. Anthony Slater said that the Warriors decided to try to bring in both of Paul George and Lauri Markkanen this offseason. He said, when Dunleavy laid out the blueprint to Curry and Green, Utah Jazz forward Lauri Markkanen wasn't plan B. He was a subsection of plan A. The Warriors wanted both wings, believing George's opt-out threat would allow them to protect required assets to entice Utah Jazz CEO Danny Ainge, and Markkanen's reasonable $18 million returning salary could make the financials work. If George had been in tow, perhaps the Warriors would have unloaded everything left in the cupboard for Markkanen. All the first-rounders, second-rounders, swaps, and young players the Jazz requested. Contention would have been a reasonable expectation. Yeah, you think, Anthony Slater, we're adding, Lauri Markkanen and Paul George. We were talking all summer about how Lauri Markkanen could have taken this team closer to contention in the West, how Paul George could have taken this team closer to contention in the West with their young supporting cast around those superstars. Now we're learning that they were going to bring in both superstars to this Warriors team. I can't sit here and lie like this doesn't, break my heart that Golden State had the opportunity, I guess not the opportunity, but the thinking in their head that this could have been a possibility for them this season. Steph Curry and Draymond Green were on board. They wanted these two. They wanted this opportunity to contend for a fifth championship in their Golden State Warrior careers. And so was Paul George. Draymond Green said that Paul George was ready to come. He was ready to come join the Warriors. Said Paul George wanted to come here. So shout out to Mike. He was giving Mike Dunleavy his props for at least going out and making attempts to go make this team a championship contender this season. He said the Clippers just wouldn't do it and opt in and trade. The conversation was always about that possibility of getting both Paul George and Lauri Markkanen. You get both of those guys, you make a huge splash. But the Clippers weren't really willing to play ball. Then Danny Ainge was being Danny Ainge. As we know, he is a stiff negotiator, and the Warriors never really actually presented a good enough trade offer, and we know that now because their plan A originally was to go out there and get Paul George before landing Lauri Markkanen. So honestly, if Mike Dunleavy went out there and really made these offers and tried out possibilities to go get Paul George and Lauri Markkanen, we can't blame him for not getting the two. We can't blame him for the Clippers holding a grudge against the Golden State Warriors and Danny Ainge being Danny Ainge, the stiff negotiator that he is, wanting basically every piece of the Warriors' pie. If they had gotten Paul George before, maybe Danny Ainge would have said, hey, let's do it, and so would Golden State. But Steph Curry put it plainly simple right here. With the Warriors' success over the past decade, with what Steph Curry has done to this NBA and how many hearts he's broken as the leader of this Golden State Warriors team, he said, let's keep it real. Most teams are probably not going to want to help us. So the Warriors face an uphill battle when it comes to improving this roster. They did their best so far this offseason when they couldn't get big-time superstars. We'll see how it all translates when they get to the court just 24 hours from right now. But let's be honest here. Do you guys think that Golden State should have traded for Paul George or Lauri Markkanen? Let me know down in the comments. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. When YouTube throws you that ad break, go down below and voice your opinion on whether or not Golden State should have traded for PG and Lauri or not. Next, we'll move over to I guess a little bit of unfortunate circumstances where the fact that this has now become a limbo thing with the Golden State Warriors as Jonathan Kuminga did not reach a contract extension with Golden State. He will not be here long term as of now, as he will hit restricted free agency next summer. The Warriors will have an opportunity to match any offer that an external team comes in for Jonathan Kuminga. And that's kind of why we're talking about this. We're bringing this segment up here on today's show is because I've seen 2 articles already out there suggesting that Jonathan Kuminga will be a trade target pretty much all season long. So if 24 hours after Jonathan Kuminga and the Warriors don't come to a contract extension, now I'm seeing that the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers already got articles, fan articles, whatever you want to call them, coming out about potentially trading for Jonathan Kuminga down the line. I think this is inevitably going to be speculation that we hear all season long. Peter O'Keefe of the Warriors Fansided Group put it pretty nicely here. He said, Moody now has a poison pill contract, which makes him very difficult to move in a trade this season. Remember, yesterday we talked about how $11.8 million would have to come back in a Moses Moody trade when you're only sending out about $5.5 million. Yet the same can't be said about Kuminga. Regardless of how he's playing, it's inevitable that there will be some form of trade speculation regarding the former 7th overall pick, something that's been fairly common over his first 3 seasons in the league anyway. But he also then said this. He said Kuminga's trade value may have been diminished, though, with any team that does want to acquire him essentially accepting that they'll have to pay at least $20 to $25 million per year, more like $30+ million, and that's what Jonathan Kuminga has already declined in free agency to keep him around long term. And I bring all this up to say that I don't think the Warriors want to trade Jonathan Kuminga. I think that what we saw over the summer, where they were kind of hesitant to even give him up for a Paul George or Lauri Markkanen, said that same sentiment. I don't think Golden State wants to trade Jonathan Kuminga. However, if the right star comes along, I don't think that they'll think twice about necessarily what he can be down the line if they think that they can contend right now. I mean, reports came out that the Warriors talked with the Timberwolves about trading for Karl-Anthony Towns before the Knicks swooped in and got a deal done. Do you think that Jonathan Kuminga wasn't involved in that trade package if the Warriors just seriously made an offer to Minnesota? I find it very, very hard to believe that Jonathan Kuminga wouldn't be included in any type of deal like that. We have more on Jonathan Kuminga coming up on the back half of today's show, as well as the Warriors rotation. It's getting trimmed down, and we're seeing who's going to step on the floor for the Warriors opening game against Portland. But first, I got to give a huge shout-out to today's daily fantasy sports partner, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform with over 10 million active members. And they're giving you free money when you guys sign up for PrizePicks. If you guys use our promo code CLNS and play a $5 lineup, you get $50 deposited into your account for free instantly. You don't even have to win that $5 entry. Now, what entry am I talking about? All you guys got to do to play PrizePicks is just pick a lineup of 2 to 6 player stat projections and just pick more or less than them. Look at what I have in front of you guys right here. The NBA season is back. The basketball season is back. And Anthony Edwards has a line out here. 0.5 points, they're giving you just 1 bucket for Anthony Edwards. Get to a free square on PrizePicks. I would take that if I were you. I also got Stephen Curry, more than 26.5 points per game on average this season. A ton of weight offensively is going to be on his shoulders. And then Luka Doncic, 1.5 50-point games? You're telling me after losing the NBA Finals, he's not coming back with a vengeance? Give me more than 1.5 50-point outings for Luka. You could fade my picks. You could take my picks. Just make sure you go and do it at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use our code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you deposit a $5 entry. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. So here's what Kendra Andrews had to say on Jonathan Kuminga, and I guess I should say what Mike Dunleavy, the GM, had to say on Jonathan Kuminga heading into this season. He said the most important thing is that he has a great season. That should be his only focus. His motivation shouldn't change. How he gets here, how he gets there, and what he thinks about it, you have to ask him. But it's set up pretty well for him to have a terrific season. So they want him to be a big-time focal point in the Warriors rotation this year. Right before that, Kendra Andrews says, Warriors GM Mike Dunleavy says there's no overreaction to not getting a Kuminga deal done. Like I said, I don't think the Warriors want to trade Jonathan Kuminga. He said not much has changed in regards to our hopes for his future with this team. Sometimes these things get done, sometimes they don't. Hope to get something done in the offseason. So the Warriors are waiting for Jonathan Kuminga to show that he deserves the max money that he and his representation are asking for here. And that's what Kuminga is doing. Kuminga is actually, honestly, taking a huge gamble, in my opinion, this season. He's betting on himself to exceed that of $30 million annually in value. That's kind of crazy, in my opinion, that Jonathan Kuminga thinks that he can overplay himself into $40, $50 million a season this year with the improvements that he's made in the offseason. Here's what Shams Charania had to say about what Kuminga thinks of his own game. He said Kuminga believes strongly in his play. He really feels he has a chance to be a star caliber player. You look at Pascal Siakam as well as guys like Kawhi Leonard, players that he could have the trajectory of. I'm not so sure if that was Shams Charania saying that or if that was what Kuminga's representation has said to him. The Warriors do want to see how this thing plays out, and they are keeping a key eye on that fit between him and Steve Kerr this upcoming season, and if he plays well, they want to pay him. Kawhi Leonard is a lofty, lofty goal for Jonathan Kuminga to be reaching. I understand that he's 21 years old right now. We're talking about a Hall of Fame level player, somebody who we've talked about as the best player in the NBA at a point in time. Think about back to 2019. I could, however, see this Pascal Siakam leap. I mean, you compare the numbers to Pascal Siakam's most improved player season, he was kind of averaging similar numbers to what Jonathan Kuminga put up last year. Then what does Pascal Siakam do the following season? He puts up a 23-point-per-game campaign that earns him All-NBA second-team honors. Jonathan Kuminga could go in that type of direction. I mean, Pascal Siakam was a super raw player heading into his NBA career. Didn't have a super good handle on the basketball. Wasn't the best decision maker. Now, fast forward to his days that he's playing in Indiana, he's initiating offense. He's bringing the ball up the floor. I think that's something that Jonathan Kuminga could eventually evolve into if his play continues to progress. And I thought this was so funny. Like, Jonathan Kuminga is not too worried either. Like Mike Dunleavy said, there's no overreaction. Jonathan Kuminga is not overreacting either. He's playing a TikTok game, trying to get the cars all in the row at the same time. I thought this was pretty funny that just a day after, he's already still having fun. He's not letting this get to his head, and he's still locked in for this upcoming season. But I laid out what I think Jonathan Kuminga can do. What is your ideal vision for Jonathan Kuminga? If he's going to be a part of this Warriors team long term, where do you see his career winding up? Is he going to be an all-star? Is he going to be an all-NBA level of player? Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think JK can accomplish. Now, we're less than 24 hours away. Like I said, Warriors are trimming this rotation down. They had a ton of players heading into the season, 17 to be exact, leaving that last roster spot open with the 3 two-way players. And we heard that there's some certain players that won't be in the rotation to start this new season. Monty Poole of NBC Sports Bay Area had this to say. He said, Warriors coach Steve Kerr has told Lindy Waters III, this is sad, and Luis Santos that they will not be in the rotation to start the season. Ads both have the ability to help the team. Listen, this Warriors team faces injury. Don't be surprised if we see Lindy Waters III after his preseason heroics get in the lineup at some point early on this year. But with Monty Poole saying that, those are the two players who actually have guaranteed roster spots, and they won't be sent down, at least I'm sure, too often to the G League. As far as the Warriors' two-way contracts go, Pat Spencer, Quentin Post, Reese Beekman, this likely means that they will not be seeing action in the beginning of the season either. I'm sure down the line, maybe once we get to December and these dog days of the NBA season, December, January, maybe we see them a little bit often. But I as far as the beginning of the season goes, and probably toward the end, if the Warriors are in contention in that Western Conference postseason picture, you won't see these guys too far in the rotation. But that's to be expected, right? Here's the Warriors guard rotation as we see it right now. Steph Curry, Brandon Podziemski, DeAnthony Melton, Moses Moody, and Buddy Hield. Now, the hierarchy is going to be interesting here. Who's going to be starting most games? I'm sure we're going to see a ton of different starting lineups. And the most different combinations that we're going to see is probably in that backcourt. Brandon Podziemski going to start. DeAnthony Melton going to start. Moses Moody now going to start. He's now the second highest paid player out of any of these players here. He actually is just edging out DeAnthony Melton in $13 million a year annually. So is Moses Moody now going to quickly vault himself up after signing that contract extension higher up into this Warriors rotation? That's something I'm looking out for. As far as the wing goes, Andrew Wiggins, Steve Kerr has said that he's going to be the number 2 option. Jonathan Kuminga, he's going to see a ton of work this season. Going to be a huge focal point. Still got Moses Moody here as well, as I think he can switch to that 3 at some point. He might be a little undersized, but I still think he can make an impact on the wing. And then Kyle Anderson, not so sure how much he's going to be playing in the wing. If you get into foul trouble a little bit, though, that's another body out there who can go defend multiple spots. And then the front court, Draymond Green, Trayce Jackson-Davis, Kevon Looney. That's interesting to see who's going to win that center spot battle, is what we'll talk about in just a second. But Draymond Green's going to still be playing 30 minutes a game. Trayce Jackson-Davis, who I think is actually going to be playing 28 to 30 minutes a night this season. And then Kevon Looney. Is he going to showcase that floor spacing ability? It's yet to be seen. We'll see if we can get that done. But as for what I'm watching for in the season opener, and as far as the first couple games of the season go, Steph staying in form. I mean, we just saw him in the Paris Olympics, absolutely light it up for Team USA. I think he just needs to channel that energy, bring it to the Warriors this year because, listen, as far as the second scoring punch goes, we don't really know who's going to be the second scoring punch when the Warriors are playing real meaningful basketball when it gets to March, when it gets to April. Next up, the volume of three-point attempts. Steve Kerr said we want to be one of the most high-volume three-point shooting teams in the league. That's how you win games. It's a numbers game now in the NBA. I'm looking forward to seeing how many threes they get up and what type of three-point attempts that they are getting up. Bringing in head coach or assistant coach Terry Stotts into the mix, running a ton of pin downs, running a ton of floppy sets to get these players open on the perimeter. I'm looking forward to that. Also, the impact of free agency additions. I got Kyle Anderson here because I think he has the easiest track to a extended role, a big opportunity for this Warriors rotation, as they're pretty limited in the front court there. Kyle Anderson might even see some minutes at the 5, according to Draymond Green. So I'm interested to see what type of impact he'll make both on the offensive and defensive end, as well as the two sharpshooters at the two-guard position, Melton and Hield. And then who emerges at that center spot, right? I just talked about it. Trey Jackson-Davis, Kevon Looney. I think, in my opinion, I want to throw Trey Jackson-Davis into the fire. The Warriors have high hopes for him. They worked him all summer long, playing with Team USA Select, playing in the Summer League again. He clearly showed that he was too good for Summer League. He needs to be in this Warriors rotation at the top at that center depth chart. And then how much will Moses Moody play? Is he just going to sign this extension for no reason? Is Steve Kerr still going to bury him in this Warriors rotation? That's what I'm looking forward to. A lot of you guys are heavily looking forward to see what Moses Moody can bring into this team impact-wise. So how much is he going to play in the opener will largely determine what his role is going to look like in the beginning of this year. But with that game coming up, who do you guys got? Type GSW for the Warriors, type POR for the Portland Trail Blazers, and join us for our watch party that will be live for 6:45 Pacific time, 8:45 Central Time, 9:45 Eastern Time, right here at Warriors Today. Play-by-play, watching the game. We're going to have some drinks on hand. It's going to be a great time. So join us then. We'll see you in the next one. Let's go Dubs.